sure if anyone's actually in yet. Looks like not quite, which is actually a little bit of relief. That gives me time to set up my camera. Turns out YouTube sort of covers the whole screen with the go live thing. Yeah, it's not. My webcam quality definitely isn't great. My phone quality is a lot better, but I'm also getting a different computer, like a refurbished laptop soon. So hopefully this isn't a problem I need to continually fix. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, if anybody comes on, I'm sure I'll show it again. But here is what I'm spinning. It is 7.5 ounces of 90% alpaca, 10% merino blend. Which is really not my usual fare. This is not the kind of thing that I've spun in a very long time. But it's nice to mix things up, you know. Anyway, so I had been shooting a video on my phone yesterday, I believe. That didn't work out. I was shooting a video on my phone yesterday in the hopes that I could upload it to YouTube and it would be sort of just a spin and chat without the live element, I suppose. But that was 6 gigabytes, and my current laptop does not have 6 gigabytes of space, which was sort of the wake-up call to get a different one. That, and it also like flashes all the time, which, given that I have light sensitivity, especially strobing lights, it's like I should have replaced it a long time ago. But you know, now I am. It just hasn't arrived yet. The reviews say the webcam quality is not too bad, and this one's pretty bad. So hopefully there will be a drastic jump in quality in the upcoming weeks. So when I did the video, I got, I don't know, I'd say 2/3 of the way through the bobbin, and I'd done a little bit before that, so I spun maybe like half a bobbin in about 50 minutes last time. It's been a long time since I've spun on a wheel, so that seems quite fast to me. It's a bit slower on the old what are they called? Supported spindles. There we go. Supported is what I've been using the most recently, although even then I've not been using it much, because it does require a lot more hand strength, unfortunately. This requires more leg strength, at least if you don't oil it, so maybe I should oil it. I haven't had anyone come in, at least if you don't oil it, so maybe I should oil it. I haven't had anyone come in yet, so this may be a failed endeavor, but that is okay. It's also possible that I can't be heard at all, and this is a totally failed endeavor. Hopefully that's not the case. And hopefully if somebody does come in, they'll let me know if I'm way too quiet or anything like that. But it's pretty quiet back here, so I think we'll be okay. I'm trying to balance the take-up issues that this wheel kind of has with the fact that I can't treadle very hard, so having a really loose take-up makes it way easier on my knees, but then, it wants to spiral, not go into the thing. So this is kind of working though, and it doesn't hurt as much. So I think I'll stick with this until. The only thing is, it doesn't give you any resistance to pull back against. And that's making it more difficult for me to keep a even singles. But it also wasn't even in the first place, so probably doesn't really matter. Also, I was winding it on really unevenly last time because I kept getting distracted by talking, which is probably going to be a running theme. So there might be a couple of very frequent flyer hook changes in the near future while I get this even. Especially because, I've noticed you kind of need stronger take-up. The more lumpy it is, if that makes any sense. And also, of course, the more full the bobbin is. I mean, that's just physics, I think. But I think the distance between the yarn coming off the hook and where it's going to land on the bobbin, I think those actually do play into how much take-up you need. A lot more than I had assumed, because I had assumed none for a while until I had to get so finicky about this. So now I'm like, hang on. It's like quite a difference switching from one hook to the next. It annoys me so much when it curls up like that, but I don't know what else to do in terms of take-up. I mean, I suppose we could I suppose I could always switch back to my electric wheel, but that has even worse take-up. It just doesn't hurt my knees at the same time. I really want to try getting a good electric wheel, because I got the cheapest possible electric wheel, and it really shows. It's kind of terrible to spin on. I only do it if there's literally nothing else, no other way I could spin, but I'm desperate to spin. That's the only conditions under which I'm using my electric wheel right now, because the take-up is so poor. And, there's other things, you can't adjust the speed without taking one hand away from your drafting. You can't stop it to work out issues, and that's always a little frustrating. Speaking of working out issues, I'm going to quickly reblog that post, see if that gets anyone coming in. I'm really only talking right now in case somebody decides to rewatch this VOD, because why not? And I got stuff to say. So let's see. Sorry for the silence. Give me just a moment. I wish I could point to my cat being cute, but she's facing the wall and I'd have to move my webcam. So I'm not going to do that. Oh, somebody joined us? That would be cool. I'm in the middle of just typing out a quick Tumblr post, just letting people know that I'm live. So give me just a moment, please. Okay. All right, I got that posted and see if that brings anyone in. I'm gonna try and keep an eye on the little people counter so that one, I notice if somebody comes in, and two, and hopefully that'll get me looking at the chat thing too. So if anybody has anything to say, I'll actually see it. But as it is, I'll just continue to ramble until that happens, if it does happen. That's not too bad. So I had my take up looser, my tension looser. There we go. I had my tension looser until just now, and I adjusted it just a tiny, tiny bit. And now, at least for now, with the current weight of the bobbin, it's not like coiling up anymore, but I'm still able to treadle reasonably smoothly. So I guess it's possible that like there's a sweet spot for every weight of bobbin, if that makes sense. As you continue to spin, look, now it's coiling again. And maybe it's just like requires constant micro adjustments to keep it perfect, which is probably not something I'd do anyway. But good to know. So if I add a little less twist, if I just tread a little slower, does that help? Not really. I mean, it helps a little bit, but then it doesn't help because I end up with the same amount of twist anyway because I'm trying to spin an even yarn here, so maybe that's a dud. I should probably get my hands a little more in frame, shouldn't I? Yeah, sorry about the lighting. I could turn on the overhead light. It's just I don't have my sunglasses right now at this exact moment, and I have a migraine, so I don't want to. So I just have a light behind my head, basically, so that I don't see it, but it illuminates things. And if this does end up becoming something I do regularly, I will try and do a better setup. But for a one-off, it is what it is. Actually, let me be able to get this a little better. Let's see. Okay, I'm kind of going to cast a shadow no matter what, but I do feel like it's a little bit brighter. Oh, I think somebody's jumped in. Awesome. Hello, if you'd like to, if you have any ideas for topics of discussion, please feel free to comment in the chat or just say hi. At the moment, I am spinning some alpaca merino roving that my mom got for me a while ago. It's not my usual thing, but I'm trying to clear out my whole stash. Here's what it looks like, by the way. It's 7.5 ounces, which is like 1,400 grams, something like that. Maybe a little, give or take several hundred grams. Anyway, and then it's sort of like a cross between pencil roving and normal roving. It's definitely much thinner than normal roving and much thicker than pencil roving. I don't know what I would call it. And it says 10% merino, but I'm not convinced. I think it's 100% alpaca. I've spun almost a full bobbin of this, and I have not felt a shred of merino in there, which isn't me complaining. I'm not a big merino fan, so that's fine. But it's, sometimes you spot those little inaccuracies and or purposeful lies on the labels of fiber content, when it says it has a percentage of different fiber combinations that adds up to more than 100, and you're like, okay, Always fun to spot that. It's like finding typos in a book. Hey, 2 people. If one of you could pop a message in the chat, just letting me know that you're able to, and also that you can hear me, I would greatly appreciate that. But no worries if not. If you'd rather just chill, that's fine. I just worry that I am not really audible. I can't tell, so. Hey, thanks for saying something. I'm guessing that means you can hear me, which is good. Hello to you as well. Cool. Chat's good. You like hearing about the fiber I'm working with? Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so like I said, I'm trying to clear out my fiber stash because I built up this massive, lifelong amount of spinner stuff, and now I'm barely using it, just due to disability, not due to lack of wanting to. So I'm trying to use it all up into a knittable or crochetable state. And this is the easiest thing I have to spin because I don't have to prep it. So that's why I started with it. I have no idea what I'm gonna do with it though. No idea at all. It's currently, actually I probably should check the WPI at some point. It's currently about 25 wraps per inch as a single, maybe more like 30. I'm not gonna bother showing it to the camera because there's just no way the resolution would work. But yeah, it's like 25 to 30 WPI as a single, and it's not next to skin soft, but it's not that far off. And I'm thinking a 2-ply as a blanket warp, but then I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to warp another blanket. I have a blanket on the loom right now already, so I don't want to do that. But then I have no idea what to use this for. So if you have any ideas, or if there's anything that you've made with alpaca that has been really successful because it was alpaca, I would love to hear about it. Because I haven't worked with that much alpaca. I'm definitely more of a wool guy, and I'm definitely not a roving guy, which is why I'm having to concentrate kind of hard on this. I usually spin roll lags, to be honest. If we were to look at by weight what prep of fiber I've spun, roll lag would totally win. And then roving would be all the way at the back, so I'm a little bit out of my depth. And also talking and spinning is a little hard, but it is enjoyable. Thank you all for joining. I can see way more people than I expected, which is awesome. Just to reiterate, if anyone has any questions or discussion topics they want to bring up, please feel free to pop it in chat. If I get too quiet or if something stops working, please let me know. But otherwise, I will just continue to ramble about my spinning choices. I'm getting through this, it feels like pretty quickly. I don't know, this is my 3rd spinning session so far, and I'm like 3/4 of the way with this bobbin now. And I know I have 7.5 ounces, and that is a lot of ounces, but it is going kind of fast. And so I'm already trying to figure out what I'm supposed to spin next after this. Because I don't have anything else prepped at all. I guess I could make a bunch of bats, but those are a little hard on my hands. And they're more creative. I'm not really in a creative mood. I'm in a do stuff now mood. It's a very different thing for me. I don't know if you guys can hear the wheel noise, but I'm really enjoying it after a long break from the wheel. I mean, I've done some supported spinning in the meantime, not a lot, but and like it has a very nice, good noise, especially if you have like if you're using a wooden spindle or a wooden spindle tip on a wooden bowl. It sounds really nice, but it doesn't have this like movement to it, you know? Oh, nice. You can hear the wheel. Good. Yeah, it's got that clicking, and then it's also got a lot of whirring going on from partly from the drive band, but mostly from the tension, whatever that's called, this bit here. That's what's generating a lot of this like slight whirring sound, but there's also the louder click. But like, it sounds like a machine. It's nice. It's like operating a wooden machine. I mean, it is operating a wooden machine. Yeah, it's a very different feel from supported spinning in a way that I always miss when I'm doing supported spinning. And then when I'm spinning on my wheel, I'm like, my knees miss the supported spindle already. And I think I got a while left in me. I should be able to switch legs at a certain point. And in the meantime, they don't hurt too bad. Hello, commenter. I'm too far away from the screen to really read accurately, so I'm not going to try and butcher your name. But the fiber that I'm spinning right now would be this large bit of, there we go, 7.5 ounces of allegedly 90% alpaca, 10% merino. I have my doubts that there's any merino in this. I think it's just alpaca. And it's roving. And this is all stuff that I don't usually spin. So if you notice the many, I don't know, slubs and thin spots in the singles, no, you don't. It's fine. Alpaca is really fun to spin. It's the fact that it doesn't pull back on you is such an interesting sensation. Like it's definitely very different from wool. You can tell as you spin it. That's too bad that you're allergic though. I hope you're not allergic to wool. But I'm glad you're able to spin it, or at least have tried spinning it, and got some enjoyment out of it despite the allergy. I've spun some incredibly beautiful alpaca. There's this farm, like 3-hour drive away from where I currently live, so probably not somewhere I'll end up going back to. But it's this huge alpaca farm out in the country, and I bought one fleece for $40, or I guess one blanket for $40 on a whim. And it's like so soft. It's so beautiful. It has almost no VM. I gave most of it away to a friend because they seemed like they were going to put better use to it than I did after a couple of years of it languishing. But like just getting to spin a few ounces of it was so nice. It was like as soft as the cashmere that I have. And I don't have low grade cashmere. I got high grade cashmere here. So it was really nice. And then none of the alpaca I've spun since then has really lived up to it. Like that was my first alpaca, I think, or maybe second alpaca spin. The second one was super rough. I just bought like a little sample bat from Etsy, and it was really rough. It was really grimy, and my hands were totally caked in like, I don't know. Alpacas don't have lanolin, but they definitely have some kind of skin oil. It was caked in that and dust, and I had to scrub my fingertips for quite some time, which was not something I enjoyed. So that's why I wash my fiber now. But this did not need washing because it's roving. And actually, I have, you might be proud actually if you know my history of buying raw fleeces and then not washing them for quite some time. I have only one more like big chunk of raw sheep's fleece left. I've washed everything else, and then I do have a tiny bit of unwashed mohair, but that's different because I have no idea how to wash that. Um, Mohair is really hard to wash, especially if it's old like mine is and has a very thick yolk like mine does. So but yeah, other than those, I'm pretty much done with unwashed fiber, which is awesome. So I still have some dyeing to do, but I don't really have any natural dyes saved up other than, of course, onion peel. Um, so I think I'll probably wait on that until spring because that's when we get a lot of the dye materials coming out in this area. Yeah, I think it's mostly an alpaca thing. People spinning it without washing it. Um, you also do it with, or some people also do it with wool sometimes, and it's called spinning in the grease in that situation because it's really greasy. But uh, I think more people spin like unwashed alpaca than they do spin sheep in the grease. And I don't really know the reason for that, other than allegedly alpaca is a little bit easier to mess up washing. So it like maybe people prefer to wash it as yarn rather than just as a pile of fluff. But if you buy like a raw alpaca blanket, um, you don't actually have to wash it before you start spinning it. You can just dive right in. But you'll get so gross. Your hands will get so gross, and prepare to have like abnormal hand washing equipment going on when you start trying to remove that stuff. Um, it's pretty gnarly. I've never spun sheep's wool in the grease, or maybe once when I was first learning, which was a while ago now. I didn't enjoy it, just not the texture of things that I enjoy. Didn't like the greasiness, so. Let's see. I don't typically dye roving, because I don't really spin roving, but I do dye my washed fleeces. So they're totally unprepared. They still look like like they came off sheep, so you can see the locks and everything still. I dye those with natural fibers. You can definitely dye roving with not natural fibers, with natural ingredients. You can definitely dye roving with natural ingredients as well. I've done it a few times, but I don't work with roving that often, so. Oh, no worries. But yeah, you totally can dye as roving. And I mean, I think it's even a little bit more stable than dyeing as any other prep. Like it is less. I haven't felt it any roving dyeing it, but I've come close with a couple other preps before. So I think you can dye as pretty much any prep if you're really careful and if you're willing to lose the fiber if it goes wrong. But I'm the kind of guy who like sets my dye pot on the stove for 12 hours and then I come back and it's like all boiled and everything. And I'm like, oh my God, it's ruined. And it's perfectly fine. And then because it's perfectly fine, I never learn a lesson from that. So I don't really trust myself with trying to like dye anything particularly fragile. Like I would not dye hand comb top. I bet you could, but I wouldn't do it. Just seems like a recipe for disaster. But there's methods of dyeing that are super gentle, and I feel like the thing that stops a lot of people from dyeing their own fiber before it's yarn is like worrying about felting, and I guess that's a fair worry. I've never felted anything on accident, like not ever. So I don't know how people are doing that because I've dyed and washed so many fleeces and I've never ever felted anything. So I don't know what the worry is with that necessarily, but I do know that there are some especially gentle fleece washing and fleece dyeing methods, and just like wool washing and dyeing methods in general, that basically have like zero risk whatsoever of harming your fiber in any way. One of them being solar dyeing, which is really fun. Yeah, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind when you first try out dyeing is you can try just a little bit. Like you can dye just a tiny handful of fleece and see if it works. And if it felts, then you've only ruined a tiny bit of fleece, right? But if it works, then you can keep doing that until you get through all of it. But if you're looking for like a really gentle first dye method, solar dyeing, highly recommend if you're in the southern hemisphere, or if you're in the northern hemisphere and you're very patient. It's basically just like you put the dye stuff in a jar, you put the fiber in a jar, you put water in a jar, and then you put the jar outside in the sun or otherwise near any heat source. Like you could solar dye using radiated oven heat, like if you wanted to. So it doesn't have to be the sun, but basically it's like a slow heating method over a period of up to months. And there's no risk to your fibers, except the possible risk of mold. So you might want to like make a dye bath out of your natural dye materials and then put that in with the wool for the solar dyeing part. But like cook the materials and strain them first. There's good reasons to do that if you choose to do that, but you don't have to. Like I've solar dyed with onion peels, and even though those get super slimy super quick, they didn't actually harm my fiber at all. So I don't know if any dye material would, but they're all made of different things, so you never know. Yeah, it's one of the more niche, like that's what hippies did in the 70s when there was that fiber arts resurgence in the 70s. That's what hippies were doing, mostly was solar dyeing, or at least I've been told. I was not alive to be a hippie in the 70s doing solar dyeing, but like you see a lot of it in books from the 70s, and it is very effective. It's very cool. I don't think it necessarily changes much of the impact, like how much environmental impact does turning your stove on for 3 hours have anyway. But that said, like super cool just as a way to use ambient heat. I also trust 70s hippies, yeah. Most of them, not all of them. My parents were 70s hippies and I don't trust them, but I do trust my 70s hippies coworkers who are great. This is getting fairly full. I might have to switch to a new bobbin soon, which I'm scared to do because then I'll see all the like bits where it ran too thin and thick. Right now I haven't looked at it up close at all, so I don't really know how it's looking except from one length to the other, so fingers crossed. But I am wondering if anyone has any, like, what should I do with this? I stated it a little bit earlier in the stream. It's like 25 to 30 WPI at the time that I measured it, and possibly wildly all over the place at all the other times. And it's like, it's not quite next to skin soft, but it's soft-ish. And I wouldn't trust it under the weight of a loom as a singles, but it could probably be knit or crocheted as a singles. I just don't know what to do with it. So if anyone has any ideas, let me know, because I don't. And right now my hand spun yarn bag that holds all of my hand spun that I don't know what to do with is like literally overflowing. So I either need to get a new bag or I need to actually use that stuff at some point. I'm usually pretty good about using my hand spun, but like I'm better about using it when I'm producing a lot of it regularly. And then if I'm not, I start getting all precious with it. And I'm like, oh, but this skein has such nice colors. Like, well, they all have nice colors. There's not a reason not to use it. But I am really good at losing the stuff that I make, so maybe it is a good reason not to use it, just to look at the pretty skein forever. I definitely have a couple of skeins like that. Like, I don't want to use it because the skein is so pretty that I would be sad if I never got to see it again. Yeah, the one skein thing is like, that's a big barrier for me as well. It definitely helps that, like, even though it's for me, even though it's one skein, they do tend to be pretty big skeins. But even so, like, I don't know. I already have all the hats and gloves I need, and those are the only one skein projects I really know about. The main thing I've been doing with my hand spun is like using it in my scrap hand spun blanket. I'm not even using scrap at this point. I'm just using full skeins and cutting them into bits, which is fine because I'm still using it. But like, that's where I'm at in terms of lack of project ideas, is scrap hand spun blanket with a full skein of yarn. It is. It's really fun. Hand spun blankets are awesome. Definitely recommend. I'm doing like squares, so I'm knitting 5 by 5 inch squares, or at least that's the idea. I do crochet borders on a lot of them because they end up a little too small. But 5 by 5 inch squares, and then I'm sewing them together into 3 by 3 blocks as I go, and then I just knit a bunch whenever I feel like it, sew a bunch whenever I feel like it. Been working on it for several years now, but you know, it's a slow project by nature, so it doesn't really feel like it's weighing on me, like, at all. It's just like a fun thing I get to come back to. You should totally do it. And if you ever post about it, please tag me. I would love to see it. You don't see a lot of scrap hand spun blankets out there, so, or faux scrap hand spun blankets like mine kind of is. And it's so like fun and cool to see all of the different yarn choices, and like especially your own, seeing how you've changed as a spinner over time. Like, it's very cool. It's a very like real and physical measure of your success and growth as a spinner, is to be able to look at all these squares of stuff that you've made. Yeah, definitely recommend. I should probably get back to knitting some squares, to be honest, because I haven't knit any in a while. We may have a cat cameo happening soon. She's just woke up and she's giving me a look from across the room, so we'll see. Hello, Chuck. Oh, you can probably just see her tail. Hi. I'm talking to people. I'm busy. She doesn't care. Oh, Chuck. She's been trying to figure out how to climb up my loom for a while now. I'm getting worried. Hey, thanks for stopping by. I'm very glad to have had you, and thank you for all the questions and the discussion. Take care. See you around. And have a good night also. I'm going to keep going for a little while yet. It looks like I've been going for about 40 minutes. There's still some people on here, so keep going for those of you who remain. I think last time when I was doing a video, I did about 50 minutes, and then that was my limit. I think I've got a little longer this time, so probably... Chuck, what are you doing? She's trying to cause all sorts of problems. Probably like an hour, but I'll try and give you guys some warning so that it's not like you get up for a second to make some tea and then you come back and it's just over. Hopefully not that. Yeah, I'll give you guys as much warning as I can. But oh, hello. Is that Possibly Bones? Or is that another person with a similar name to my friend? Can't tell, but either way, welcome in. Thanks for coming in. Oh, hey, Bones. It's good to see you. Well, it's good to, well, I guess be on a stream together. Seeing is not really the right word, but yeah, hello. Looks like quite a few of you might have just popped in, actually. At the moment, other than trying to stop my cat from destroying everything I own, which is a constant ongoing struggle, I am spinning this. It was 7.5 ounces of roving. It's just tipped a trash can over. There's nothing in it, so it's not. But like, come on, man. Anyway, it was 7.5 ounces of 90% alpaca, 10% merino. Allegedly, I don't think there's any merino in it, but that is okay. My mom gave it to me. It's totally prepared roving, which is not my style, but I figured it was the easiest thing to start with. I'm trying to clean out my stash right now. Yes, moving wheel, agreed. Yeah, so this is my first thing. I'm trying to clean out my unspun fiber stash. And it is going pretty well, actually. Not having too many problems with the wheel or with my knee yet, so that's nice. I think I'm gonna like just keep going spinning all my stuff until I kind of can't anymore. And then see where I'm at then. But in the meantime, I don't think I'm gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna chill, you know. They will just say that, for real. Like, there's this farmer's market where I used to live, like a couple houses ago, and I bought fiber there from one of the local stall people, like once or twice. And when I looked at the label, I realized like it says it's 80% Targi, 20% merino, 10% Angelina, and then 5% silk. I'm like, is it though? Like, which one of these does it not have? If not most and or all of them, because that is over 100. So I don't know. I've been looking at it. I've been feeling it. I've spun most of a bobbin of this stuff. It doesn't feel like there's any merino at all. It totally feels like 100% alpaca. Maybe it was like a very weird merino. I guess you never know. It was a weird, useless blend, yeah. And it was really difficult to spin. The colors were super pretty, but like one of the worst blends I've ever worked with, and I couldn't even tell people what the fiber content was because I had no idea. Yeah, I have not bought their stuff again, but they only did it 1 year, and I think people caught on pretty quick that either they don't know how to do math or they're trying to screw people over because they didn't come back. So that is fine with me. There's lots of random little farms around here that I can buy raw wool from. 100 alpaca is really great. Like, it doesn't need much else. I will say I am partial for like 1-ply alpaca and 1-ply wool is really fun. Because then you get the springiness, but like only from 1-ply. It can get really interesting. But that's not something you get as a blend. So yeah, I don't see why alpaca needs to be blended with much of anything, except I guess elasticity. But then it's like, if you want elastic fiber, why are you not just using wool in the first place? You know, like wool is what you're gonna get for elasticity. That's it. That's all there is. One thing about this like massive chunk of roving is that anytime I try and unwind it, it just like starts ripping apart because it's so heavy. So I guess I have to spin more of it to get rid of that problem. It is getting easier as I spin, so at least there's that. This is so uneven. So incredibly uneven. I'm used to there being a little bit more like things you need to do with your hands while spinning, because I typically spin my own roll lags, and I'm one, not the best roll lag maker, so there's some texture in there, and two, they're just sort of inherently you have to do a lot more. But with this, it's like it almost pulls out of your hand before you can draft it, and I think the fact that it's alpaca doesn't help, because alpaca slides by itself a bit more readily than most wools, but like, yeah, it's hard to draft. I don't think I'm getting any better at it either. I guess I'm only a little bit in, I suppose. I need to weigh this thing and figure out how much I've actually spun at the end of this, because I'm curious. One bobbin's worth is sort of not a helpful measurement, because like this, at the moment, I'm winding it on really loosely, so it's not packing down, so it's going to be lighter and have less wool on it and less yardage than it would otherwise. Like normally I usually use a little bit higher tension, but my knee kind of hurts, so I'm doing lower tension. So because that's variable, the fact that I've spun almost one bobbin, usually that would clue me in a little more, but today, no, not so much. Almost done though. In a moment, probably once I've broken off this bit, I'll turn the wheel and show you guys the bobbin so you can see how it's looking, hopefully, if the webcam allows it. It's not allowing much. I can, at least not on my end. It's pretty grainy. I'm sorry about that. I am hoping to, well, I'm hoping my new laptop, my used refurbished laptop that is new to me, I'm hoping that has a better webcam. If I end up doing this more regularly, and then I'll do some better light setups if I do this again as well. Because yeah, this is like, it's like watching a spinning video from like the 60s, which was not really my intention. I think it's like the sound is mostly the nice part anyway, you know, the clicks, the whirs, the claw of my cat attacking the trash can again. I don't even know what she wants. Like, she's eaten. She has a huge water dish. She's just like, I got something to say, and you're gonna listen, pal. The clicks are great. I'm sure Chuck would say hi back, but she's busy scratching at the door like a miscreant, so. She might at some point pop into frame. I'm sure I'll have to drag her over if I can entice her, and pay the cat tax. Pay the cat tax. All right. Just secure this real quick. So. That is what I'm at right now, and there's definitely a bit of space, like right here. There's some space for sure, but yeah, it's pretty full. Indeed, the bob. It is cat tax season. I actually did my taxes for like literally the second time in my life, Bones. You're gonna be so proud of me. Finally put an end to my losing W-2 streak. Yeah. Hence the laptop. Thank you. I am very glad that you like it. Yeah, it is a lot more than I thought I would have gotten done by now. Part of it is definitely the fact that the tension is really low, for sure. It fills up faster than it would otherwise, but it's still more than I thought. Yeah, it is the worst. I hope you're almost done at least, because one of the worst times of year, right up there with like Christmas at this point. which isn't even a dig at Christmas, but like the last couple of years, everybody around me has talked about how draining and miserable they found it just because of the expectations. And it's like, wow, we finally out capitalism to Christmas to the point where nobody even likes it anymore. Which, I mean, it's depressing for a whole host of reasons. But it's it's interesting. It feels like the vibe has changed a lot uh, on Christmas, but on any holiday too. Like in the last 5 or 6 years. These are some good clicks. So I had this as a like right now I've got this elastic rubber drive band that you can't see it all. There we go. Got this elastic rubber drive band, and it's nice and grippy, so it's helpful in that regard. But previously, I had a cotton drive band for a little while, and it sounded so much nicer, but it just like it was a lot harder to spin on. So I'm trying to come up with an alternative to add up to the sound a little bit without going back to a cotton drive band because that was just ridiculously difficult. Oh, good. I'm glad you're almost done with your taxes at least. If the end is in sight, then that means you've done a lot of annoying work already. You've done most of it. Part of the noise is also definitely the treadle and the footman. Because like the footman has a hair tie around it to keep it from falling off the spinning wheel, and it like snaps back together every time it finishes a rotation. And that adds to the sound a lot too. Like it's interesting. I feel like if my wheel was like tip top perfect condition, it would sound like crap. But because it's got all of these weird quirks and things that don't work, and like it is held together literally with chopsticks and hair ties, it sounds so much better because of that. Which I think is like it's true about a lot of tools, like wooden tools especially. Like my spindles, which they're not exact. Like I'm not a master crafter. I'm straight up just the guy who picks up too many sticks and then whittles them. Um, which is not. You don't need a lot of qualifications for that. But like my spindles have a really nice sound. They have that going for them. And the ones that I bought from like actual, people who this is their day job is making spindles, they don't really have a sound. Even the one that I bought that was like a captive whorl, meaning that it was like carved in such a way that there's like basically a wooden bead around the shaft that can't come off, and it like allegedly sort of rolls around making noises. It doesn't make any noises, and it never has. I don't know why. But my spindles do make noises, which is why I prefer them. Like, there's got to be an auditory aspect, like auditory and visual aspect to my spinning, or else I get really bored really fast. Oh, thank you. That's that's true. By the way, if you want like to know what my wheel sounds like on a better microphone than my laptop's microphone, I have a couple of recordings of my wheel on my blog, and I will probably end up reblogging one of those tonight just out of nostalgia because I kind of want to listen to it like what it used to sound like because it changes over the years. So yeah, you can check that out if you're interested. I honestly feel like the sound aspect of spinning wheels is like half the enjoyment of a spinning wheel. Like it's significant. And it kind of makes me wonder, like, did people enjoy the sounds of the world? Like, 500-600 years ago when spinning wheels were in their heyday? Because, like, at the moment, I do not enjoy the sounds of the world. Granted, I live on a very busy street, so it's pretty much just car noises and people screaming. But, like, even so, I don't like it. I don't like the noises we got going on. Like, the sounds, the beeping sounds that timers make, the sound that my washer makes when it's done. I don't like those noises, but I really like these noises. Like, what happened? Maybe I'm just a weirdo. Or maybe the noises were just better in the past. More wooden. They were definitely more wooden in the past. I think that can definitively be said. Sometimes when I really want a blast from the past, I'll listen to a bull roar in a cave. Bull roars are thought to be at least the oldest known, and this is just last I checked, so maybe we found more info on this in the last couple of years, but they're the oldest known like instrument played by hominids, and they're basically a piece of bone or potentially stick, although obviously those ones haven't survived, and it's tied to a cord, and all you do is you swing it around your head, like just swing it over and over again and keep it in a constant loop. And it, on its own, it doesn't make a lot of noise, but if you combine it with like different acoustic settings, so for example, the inside of a cave or a really echoey place, it sounds like an animal call almost. It sounds really cool. I'm a really big fan of that instrument. I don't think I have the space to swing one in my Matchbox apartment, because I definitely don't have space to swing a cat, and I think you need a little bit more space to swing a bull roar. Not that I've tried swinging my cat, but that's a really good point. Like, the timers are all purpose driven. The washing machine noise, that's purpose driven. Horns, purpose driven. Like car sounds, those are more ambient, but they're also, I have less of a problem with them now that you mention it. Like, I don't know if you've noticed or if there's like enough of them for you to have heard it where you are, but like those electric cars have the eeriest whine, like when they're idling, at a stop sign or something. I noticed when I was living slightly more in the suburb part of the city, like my last place, because one of my neighbors had an electric car, and like I'd hear them idling when I was getting ready for work in the morning, and it was like the first couple times I heard it, I was like, "What the fuck is going on?" That is an insane noise. Like, it's quiet, but it's very eerie, and I appreciate that. Like, if you're gonna make there be a noise, not a fan. That's fair. I like it more than I like the horrible loud truck noises, so I think my bar might just be really low. But I do also like the eeriness of it. I don't think I'd buy an electric car necessarily just for that noise, even if I did drive right now. But I don't know, gas prices being what they are, maybe it's worth it. Who can say? Yeah, like sneaking up on you they can be a little scary. They're definitely like a different category of noise to me. I don't know about either of you, but like they don't sound like a car, really. I know that they're a car, but they don't sound like a car. They just sound like something, something weird. I don't listen to a lot of bicycle noises. And bicyclists do not brave the streets that I am on most of the time. Uh, nice. Yeah, playing car noise is definitely great. I'll have to get my sister to record her bicycle noises, I guess. She recently got into biking, like really into biking. But she likes going super fast, so we haven't done like a, jaunt out together with me in my power chair and her on her bike. So I gotta figure out what her bike sounds like. It's a foldable bike. I wonder if that changes anything. I don't really know anything about bikes. The last time I rode one, I was like 10 or something, so it's been a while. We've reached about 1 hour of me spinning on the same leg, which I should not have allowed to happen because that's probably a bad idea. So I'm going to quickly switch to the next leg, the other leg. I only have 2 legs, I promise. Normal number of legs. And I'm going to switch to the other one. And also I think switch bobbins because this is like basically full and I don't think I'll get very far trying to squeeze on the last little bits. Just add some twists back in here. Sorry you guys can't see what I'm doing. I will definitely be looking into better lights. Twisting this the wrong way. Actually, it's a good thing you can't see what I'm doing. Because then you'd see me being really dumb. Is this the... Oh my god. Okay, it's spinning this way, so I should be twisting this way. Why does that not work? Yeah. I'm just trying to add a tiny bit of twist back into this end fiber because I forgot to do it correctly and now. Embarrassing. Okay. All right. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's get it a little closer up. If you haven't seen how to change a bobbin slightly sideways, this is how. And there's, that's full enough for me. It could definitely fit more on, but I don't think I need to because it's definitely not all going to fit on 2 bobbins. So, yeah, it doesn't matter. Trying to avoid like reaching across the entire screen because then you would see the really terrible shirt I'm wearing that's like more holes than shirt. So, trying to avoid that. So it's some awkward sliding things sometimes. Anyway, so now we put the second bobbin on. It's funny, the first time I did this, like the first time I ever used a spinning wheel, it was like defusing a bomb. Or like that's how afraid of doing it wrong I was. It was as if I was defusing a bomb. And then, like what? 5 or 6 years later, I'm like, I don't know, it's whatever. You just do whatever and then it's done. I do still pretty religiously oil the leather parts though, like the bearing on the leather parts, because I find it makes like a minute difference to how difficult it is to treadle, and that minute difference is worth it. But it also does make it very greasy, which I hope doesn't have any like long-term effects on the leather, but I don't know enough about leather to know for one way, like to know for sure for one way or another. Bob 2.0, correct. Yeah. Okay. And this might blow your mind. Bob 3.0, except he's naked. So that's a little awkward. You can't have Bob 3.0 around here. Not if he's going to be naked. Give me a moment while I just start up a new bobbin. This probably would be faster if I actually used leaders, and I just am never going to do that. So you guys have to suffer through my poor habit forming choices. Naked Bob, I know. I mean, this isn't a family channel, but like nonetheless, you can't have that. Super fast treadling to build up some dust. Okay, now we're done. Yep. Don't know exactly how much longer I'll be going. I actually have not even taken a single sip of my tea, so I should probably drink some of my tea before I say anything about signing off. But I'm not feeling too bad. I took a whole bunch of pain meds before I started the stream, and they're finally kicking in. So that's helpful. Such good tea. Yeah. Lukewarm tea, correct. I don't even know if I'd call it lukewarm, but it's Celestial Seasonings Cranberry Holiday or something, like Cranberry Vanilla Wonderland, something like that. It's so good. Like, it's so ridiculously good. I have it with a tiny bit of sugar, and then a little bit of oat milk. You can't use regular milk because it does like split or whatever, but oat milk doesn't really split like that. So it's delicious. Yeah, Celestials is really good. I mean, like, from a ethical standpoint, well, I don't even know if it's ethics. From a weirdness standpoint, not good. But from a tea standpoint, unfortunately, phenomenal. What? Hi. She's too shy to actually approach the camera, which is sad because I explicitly promised a high likelihood of chucks. So we'll have to see what we can do to entice her out at some point. Probably treats. I got her the dairy treats this time, and she loves dairy. And she's been so dairy deprived since I became lactose intolerant. So, Chuck alert or sock. It's Chuck. I mean, I guess like it is possible that I might have a sentient floating upside down sock at cat height in my apartment. Doesn't pay rent, but it's here. Much like Chuck. I mean, Chuck's tail is great, but I will say her face, her whiskers. You haven't lived until you've seen her whiskers recently. Her whiskers keep getting bigger and bigger, and like she genuinely looks like some sort of like I don't even know how to describe it, like Mr. Monopoly Man. Minus the monocle is the vibe she's got going right now, which is insane. It's really funny. Nice. I love good long whiskers on a cat. It's like I can tell those are so long because you like getting yourself in all sorts of situations, I bet. Or at least that's definitely true of Chuck. I assume it's true of Puppy. Ah, I'm on the wrong ride. Guess we get a slightly different view of this spinning wheel. Let me know if you want me to like try adjusting it a bit because I can definitely move it around, but it does need to be in a different position so my other leg has room. But until anyone says otherwise, I go. And if I'm not leaning in to peer at the comments, that helps me not cast massive shadow over the flyer. I need to do one of these when I don't have a migraine so that I can actually turn on the overhead light, and then I bet the lighting would be way better. But at the moment, I don't want to do that, so it has to wait. Thanks, Bones. I shall stay comfy then. I'll probably still move it around while I try and figure out what is comfy, but nonetheless. I'm always hoping that like I can find a way to position my hands where you can actually see me drafting. And it's weirdly difficult. I don't know why it's so difficult. I don't know if it'd be interesting anyway, I guess. Like it's just my hands moving apart and going back over and over. But like I'll put them in frame and then I'll immediately forget and I'll just like migrate out of frame again. So and again with the shadow. Anyway. So I've got like a whole bunch of other things I could theoretically work on after this. Not after like this stream or this bobbin, but after I finish this alpaca. Mainly I've got this really beautiful Shetland fleece that is Morit colored, so that's like milk chocolate colored. And it's a lamb fleece, so it's super soft, super crimpy, super beautiful, tons of VM. And I remember doing some experiments, and hand carding it was like led to the nicest yarn by far. But wow, my hand cards were really painful to use at the moment. So I don't really want to do that. But like all of the things that I'm excited about spinning are best hand carded. My other option being like my other spinning option being this, what is it? So it's this weird combo. I think it's a Shetland and Clun Folk or Clun Forest blend. Not blend. Cross. It's from one sheep rather than the wool from multiple sheep blended together. So like I think the mom was Shetland and the dad was a Clun Forest. And Clun Forest is a down breed, so that's like blocky, short, super crimpy. And Shetland is a fine wool, so that's longer fibers, silky fibers, not necessarily as crimpy fibers. And like the resulting fleece is fascinating, like absolutely fascinating. Never spun anything like it, and I've only done a little bit of tests, and I haven't dyed all of it, but I've dyed most of it. And I was thinking that would make a really nice blanket too, but I don't. Again, I don't want to be making more blankets like at this particular moment. But I kind of want to spin that up, but that also is by far better hand carded based on the test that I did. So I'm sort of, I don't know. I'm sort of struggling to figure out what to do next, given the tools that I have and limitations I've got. I was going to have a friend come over and card some fiber for me, but that did not end up panning out. So, like, I don't know now. We'll see. I'll definitely come up with something because it's been so long since I've spun consistently, and I'm finally spinning consistently for the first time in a while. And that's like, yeah, it's nice. I'd forgotten how nice it is, like how relaxing it is. Last night I was spinning it on the front end of an edible, and I think that has not helped my consistency issues. But it was really enjoyable. It was not as good as spinning on shrooms. If you ever have the chance to take shrooms and spin, you absolutely should. It's a great experience. But that's true of many things with shrooms. Like standing under a tree while on shrooms, 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. Staring at drywall, that was a big one. I loved staring at drywall, specifically the popcorn ceiling over my bed on shrooms. It was riveting. I don't know why. Oh, Chuck. Oh, she's brought my shoe. Hello. Chuck. She has object permanence issues, and if she can't see me, she assumes that it's a lie and I'm not actually here. So, hello. You want to come closer to the camera? Oof, you're so heavy. She is 30 pounds, guys. There she is. Come on. Half a Chuck. The whole Chuck. She's wiggling. Big Chuck, that's correct. I would say the biggest Chuck of all is this Chuck. I'm glad I was finally able to provide the promised Chuck cameo. Chuck, come on, man, just lay down. Yeah, anyway, she does this thing where like she wanders around while I'm home in my studio apartment that is very small. Like, you know, very hard to lose track of somebody in this apartment. It's quite small. She'll wander around like facing the opposite direction, yowling her sad little heart out, being like, he's gone, he hates me. And it's like I'm literally like looking at her and 10 feet away and calling her name. And then eventually she'll be like, oh, what's that noise? And then she'll turn around and just trot up happily and get some pets. But she was born to be an orange cat. She should have been an orange cat. Would have made a lot more sense if she was an orange cat. Because she loves me. That's true. That is true. So overcome with love that she forgets about object permanence. One of the classic things to forget when you're overcome with love, to be honest. She is, yeah, she should have been like, you know, a 30-pound, extremely long male orange cat. And that would have been perfect for her. I mean, I hate to say it, but I don't think she can turn orange. But she could be a male cat. You always have time, Chuck. We support you. Oh, Bubby does the same thing. I meow back to Chuck as well, but she is not impressed with my meows. She thinks my meowing sucks. It kind of does. I'm not good at it. Yes, trans Chuck rights forever. I don't know if we can support trans Chuck rights, actually, because when I was recovering from top surgery, I had those drainage bulbs like sticking out of my chest for a little while. And I had to kick her out of my room because she'd try and play with the drainage bulbs while I was asleep. And then even more egregious, she would try and stand directly on my nipple grafts, which was agonizing for obvious reasons. Like that, she had no interest in doing anything other than playing with the drainage bulbs and standing on my like still open wound, pretty much nipple grafts. Yeah, she's a menace. I had to kick her out of my room for a while. I know. I know, betrayal. I am so curious, like, what she thought happened. Like, when I came home, was she like, oh my god, my favorite napping spot's gone? Or like, did she forget that they were ever there due to the lack of object permanence? Like, there's no way to know. Enemy of the people. That's rough. Chuck, you're making people unhappy right now. Your fans are turning to anti-fans due to rudeness. I will say she's sitting very politely right now in a tiny little couch, so she can have some rights. Yeah, charm. Indeed. Honestly, I think like the biggest highlight of that whole thing for her was the fact that my mom was over helping me recover. And my mom, like, she really likes Chuck, and she has no idea how to pick her up, no idea how to read cat body language, and kind of enjoys being slightly mean to cats for fun. So, like, in like the way that moms often are, like not in a cruel way, but in a mom way, if that makes sense. So she was basically like endlessly bothered by my mother, which is good payback for endlessly bothering me. But I think that was her chief concern, was like, this lady is picking me up again. Yet again. And she's holding me up to the other cat who I don't like to try and get us to kiss each other. Intolerable. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you have a good night. And I think I will try and stream again. I'll put up notifications on Tumblr if I do. But yeah, thanks for coming by. Take care. Probably going to be wrapping up the stream fairly shortly, maybe like 10 minutes. For those who remain, I think even half hour is a pretty good place to end it. So my legs are getting a bit tired. Don't want to overdo it, but yeah, this has been a great stream, mostly due to all of you guys, because there was like a good 10-15 minutes where there was nobody on yet, and it was very awkward. It was just me talking to myself. So it's definitely, you guys have made the stream quite pleasant, and thank you for that. Yeah, moms are like that. Like, it's just an inherent mom thing somehow. I don't know why. Maybe because they're like, well, I dropped my baby once or twice and it was fine. So, like, I can probably pick up this cat. Which is, that's true. Yeah. There's this one time, it's a story that I've been told, but I have no memory of it because I was a little kid. But my mom was pushing me in a stroller and walking with my sister home from the bookstore, or from the library rather. And a massive pine cone fell on my head, like as we were walking, like a huge, good 10-pound pine cone. According to what she says, fell directly on top of my head as we were walking. And like, in retrospect, that explains some things. Explains quite a lot about my general mental acuity, I think. Like, if my boss tries to get on me for forgetting to do X, Y, Z, it's like, look, you don't understand. I had a pine cone fall on my head from quite a distance at a very young age. And I was impressionable, like my skull at the time, slightly impressionable. I know, right? It's like, I guess that must happen, like, to more people than just me, but what are the odds? Like, they fall every day, but geez. It did. I know. My first failed assassination attempt. Age 1. Yeah. that is apparently how badass I was as a 1-year-old. Survived tree assassination without even knowing, without even trying. Didn't break a sweat. Apparently, my reaction was like initially crying because confusion, and then it was just like, can I keep it? Like I just wanted to keep the pine cone after that. And it was like a really big pokey pine cone. So my mom was like, why do you want to keep this thing? And I was like, well, it chose me by falling on my head. Which, fair enough, I guess. I don't know if she'll let me keep it or not, though. Probably not. You'd think, right? It's like how if they dig a bullet out of you, like you might get to keep that. If a pine cone drops on your head, you should get to keep it, and you should get to open it up and eat its children, the pine nuts. Make pesto out of them. I made pesto with pepitas, pumpkin seeds, recently, and it was so green, so beautifully green, and it tasted really good too. And pepitas are super cheap here, so I'm counting that as a win. Like, I mean, I've never used pine nuts for pesto anyway because I'm not a millionaire, but I usually use like sunflower seeds or walnuts, but I think I'm a pepita and pesto guy now. So it was very good. Yeah. I have 2 edible plants at the moment. Or I guess I technically have 3 edible plants because monsteras can produce fruit after a very long time. But I don't keep it for food though. But I have like a couple of edible plants and mostly just non-edible pretty plants that I like looking at. So I have a mint and basil. And then I'm also pirating scallions and leeks again, but I don't know if that counts. That's just cost of doing business. You should, yeah. If you can, like, especially if you can find the ones that are green and like fresh, like not old ones. I think the fresh ones seem to have an awful lot more flavor, but definitely worth a shot. It was really good. I was hoping as I spun this that I would get a little closer to figuring out what the hell to do with it, and I haven't. I'm still just sitting here like, don't know. Like it might, I don't know, 7.5 ounces is just not enough to do a lot with. Like it's enough for a blanket warp, if I wanted to do a blanket, I think. But it's definitely not enough for like a sweater. Unless I spun it really, really fine, which no, I haven't done that, so that's not going to work. And it's way too much for a hat. It's not a good fiber for socks, and those are my only ideas. Like maybe a shawl, but I'd want to dye it if that were the case. I don't really go for light brown like this. I like dark brown a lot, but I don't like light brown to wear. Small tapestry. I mean, maybe. That's true. It would, like, the thing about alpaca is it's really, because it doesn't stretch, I think it would make a more suitable warp than wool, because you don't have to deal with the fact that the stuff you're trying to precisely and exactly measure stretches as you put it on the loom with alpaca. So that's a huge draw. But 7.5 ounces is also way too much for a tapestry. Is the problem. Like 7.5 ounces of, if I did this as 2-ply, it would end up, hang on, let me check the card. If I did this as 2-ply, it would end up probably around like 20 WPI. so 20 wraps per inch, which is pretty fine. I think that's like fingering weight, so like sock weight yarn. So like it's fairly thin, but even so, 7.5 ounces, not like it's a lot and it's not enough, which is why I'm kind of considering doing one ply alpaca and one ply something else. But then, then I need 7.5 ounces of something else to prepare that will go with like a sort of tan color. So yeah, I have no idea. I guess I could make a shawl to give away, maybe. That's an option, maybe. I mean, the most obvious option is just toss it in my hand spun yarn bag, and that is probably what will happen. But like usually, I at least try to come up with a couple workable ideas that would use up the yardage I have while I'm spinning it, and I've not had a lot of luck. Isn't that the opposite of what you'd want in a compression wrap, though? Like you want high elasticity so it's compressing? Or do you want low elasticity so you can wrap it a lot and just the pressure of the wrapping compresses? I have no idea how compression works, I just realized. But if it does work that way, then that's an interesting idea. It actually is like a very similar color to ace bandages. So that would be sort of hilariously on point. I might have to try that. Yeah, I just don't know how that works. Like, yeah, no idea. I mean, like, I'm wearing a compression glove right now, and it is stretchy. But that, like, I also have tried wearing. I have a pair of hand-spun fingerless gloves that at one point I refurbished and darned quite heavily, so the entire palm like completely woven basically, and the backing and the whole rest of it originally knit. So the combination of this knit and darned weaving made them almost like compression gloves, like briefly. Whenever I wash them again, it brings them back to that state, and they work as compression gloves for a couple hours. But then they stretch out really fast. So, but I wonder if, like, I don't know. I wonder if I could recreate that with a lot of trial and error. Like a lot, probably. I could always like knit a blanket with it, I guess. Like I could probably knit a lap blanket with it if I dyed it. Because it is pretty warm. Like my hands are warm just working from it, so that's how you know it's a good warm yarn. But it's a little thin for that. Like if it's a day where I want a lap blanket in my wheelchair, I want like a thick, like beefy lap blanket. It would be pretty, yeah. If I paired it with something else, like something a little bit warmer or heavier weight, maybe that could be really good. Cowl, maybe. If I could figure out a design where I have like something softer touching my skin, but this is like the hood. This could be a really cool hood, actually. That's an interesting idea. Like a hooded cowl, like you see in fantasy recreations of medieval times. And then like around the neck, I'd just do something a little bit softer. Like I have softer alpaca actually, so I could just use that, like around the neck and the ears. That's a cool idea. I'll have to think about that, Thinky Bones. Yeah, it may well. I haven't worked enough with alpaca to really know, but this is making it clear that I need to do a couple of experiments. Um, like, it has good drape, which means it looks very pretty when it's folded, when there's wrinkles. It's not like all stiff, like thick and stiff in an unmoving way, but then it also, like, because of its lack of elasticity, it doesn't move much. So it looks pretty while staying in the same spot, if that makes any sense at all. That's been my experience with it. It's a very odd fiber to describe, but I think it would make a good cowl. I cannot figure out what that second word says. The text's a little bit too small. It's something. It does something, that is for sure. Type it in caps at me. Virtual yelling. It doth. Thank you. Indeed, it doth. I feel like it might make a nice skirt. Like, skirts are kind of hard to wear in a power chair, but could also make a nice skirt. And I feel like 7.5 ounces might be enough for a skirt. I don't know. I've never made a skirt, but it could be. I have to ask some of my friends who have made skirts what the yardage is on that. I think I should probably wrap it up in the next couple of minutes. I drink a little more of my tea, see if I can entice Chuck over one more time. But I've, wow, we've gotten quite far. Let me show you where we're at right now. See? That. And that was all in the last, like, 20 minutes. And then we've got the entire other thing. I know, Bob's back. He's back and he finally put some clothes on. God. And special painted Bob. Doesn't look very different from the other Bobs, to be fair, but it's painted blue so that I could keep track of which ply was which when I was doing opposing plies. And that has served no function since then, just blue. But indeed, painted Bob. Yeah, and we've reduced this pretty significantly. Like, I feel like this was quite a lot bigger when I started. And now it's, yeah. Gotten quite a lot done. I think I will definitely be continuing these streams for as long as I have a willing audience and also as long as I can. So I know, right? It's a lot of work, and it was like very enjoyable due to the company of those on stream. It's usually not that fun if I'm just sitting here chilling. So especially Bones. Thank you, Bones, for joining. It's been a while since we talked to each other. This is nice. Yeah. All right, we're at an hour and 40 minutes, so I think I'm gonna call it. Find somewhere sturdy not sturdy, somewhere safe and potentially booby trapped to put my roving so that Chuck doesn't get into it. Because that is her biggest ambition, to destroy all my wool with her love and her teeth. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna close it down, but thank you to everyone who joined. I'll probably reblog a couple of my old spinning noises audios on my Tumblr as soon as I log off of here, or like soon after. So if you guys want to hear the spinning wheel again, you know, love you too, Lance. Chuck also says love you. Bob's a strange guy. Don't ask too much of Bob. He's very fickle. All right. Yeah, you rest well too. Have a good one. It's good. Okay, I found it. All right. Good night, everyone.